Smart, smart, do. We are the children, the children of God. Come, come, come. We change our world. We have what it takes to do it smart and make it smart. Welcome to our Smart Do.
Hello class 5 boys and girls, how are you? And I hope that you are fine and I'm fine too. Welcome to today's lesson, science lesson. The previous lesson looked at animals. We classified animals into vertebrates, invertebrates, warm-blooded and cold-blooded. Today I want us to look at soil, another topic. This is another unit on soil, whereby in the previous classes, and that is in class 4, you looked at, in the lower primary, you looked at the 3 types of soils. Whereby we said we have the 3 types of soil as sand soil, loam soil and clay soil. Now what is soil? Soil is defined as the uppermost layer of the earth's surface where plants grow. Soil, this is the uppermost layer of the earth's surface. Uppermost layer, or the top layer of the earth's surface. The top layer of the earth's surface where plants grow. Where plants grow. That is soil. The uppermost layer of the earth's surface where plants grow. We looked at the plants whereby we said we have some plant parts which grow in the soil. So we are looking at soil. Today I want us to look at soil texture. What is soil texture? Soil texture is the smoothness or fineness of soil. The smoothness or roughness of soil. Soil texture is given as either smooth or rough. The smoothness or roughness of soil. How do you identify soil texture? Soil texture is identified by feeling the soil using fingers. You use your fingers to feel the soil. For example, you just to identify if something is smooth or rough. For example, if it is this board, I'll just feel it using my fingers. If it is, for example, this piece of paper, to identify its texture, I'll just feel it using my fingers. So in a case you are told that class 5 pupils were feeling soil in their fingers, what were they identifying? They were identifying the soil texture. Whereby I say texture is given as either smooth or rough. For example, we have the 3 types of soils. We have the 3 types of soils, whereby we have sand, we have loam, and we have clay. We are going to identify the textures of these 3 types of soil by feeling with our hands. And the type of soil, the type of soil texture is determined by the size of soil particles. If a type of soil has large soil particles, then it has a fine, rough texture. For example, I will start with this type of soil. This type of soil is sand soil. This type of soil is sand soil. How is the texture of sand soil? I said you feel it using your fingers. You feel it using your fingers. So after feeling it, you'll know whether it is rough or smooth. And you can see, once I pour sand soil here, it spreads easily. Once I pour sand soil, it spreads easily. Why? It spreads easily because it has large particles. It has large particles. And if it has large particles, that means, for example, if this is sand soil here, it has large particles. We have some spaces between the particles. These spaces between the particles are called air spaces. In case the soil has large particles, that means it has large air spaces. It has large air spaces. Now that is sand soil. And when you pour it on a piece of paper, it spreads easily because it has large particles and it has large air spaces. Then how is the texture? after feeling the soil using your fingers. After feeling the soil using your fingers, how is the texture? We say sand soil, because it has large particles and it has large air spaces, it has a rough texture. It is not smooth, it is rough. It has a rough texture. And rough texture, we say it is coarse. We say it is coarse. It has a coarse texture. It has a coarse texture. That is sand soil. It spreads easily. It has large particles. It has large particles and it has large air spaces. That means it has a coarse texture. Let's look at another type of soil. Let's look at another type of soil. I have another type of soil here. I have another type of soil here. This is clay soil. This is clay soil. Now, from the look, the way it has just collected itself. We say clay soil does not spread easily. It is not like sand. If I pour sand here, it will occupy a large area because it spreads easily. Clay soil does not spread easily. Does not spread easily. And how are the particles of clay soil? How are the particles of clay soil? It has very fine particles, very small particles. In fact, it has the smallest particles. It has the smallest particles. So clay soil has small particles. The particles are stick together. That's why you say clay soil sticks. It's sticky when wet. And if the particles stick together, then it has small air spaces. It has small air spaces. And how is the texture of clay soil? Once you feel the clay soil using your fingers, how is its texture? We say the texture of clay soil, once it's felt in between the fingers, it has a fine texture. It has a fine texture or smooth texture. It has smooth texture. It has a smooth texture. So, clay soil does not spread easily. It collects together. It has small particles and it has small air spaces, meaning it has a fine texture. So the other type of soil, whereby we are going to look at it very briefly, is the loam soil. Loam soil, this is loam soil. It has moderate, we say everything in loam soil is moderate. It doesn't have large or small particles. It has moderate particles, meaning they are not small or large. If it has moderate particles, it has moderate air spaces. They are not large air spaces, they are not small air spaces. That means even its texture is moderate. It is not smooth, it is neither smooth nor rough. It has a moderate texture. So that is how we identify soil texture. We say we identify soil texture by feeling it with our fingers. We feel it with our fingers. And I say sand soil has a rough texture because it has large air spaces and large particles. Clay soil has small air spaces and small particles, so it has a fine or smooth texture. So from there, next time we'll look at the characteristics of the different types of soil. Thank you.